Tonight, federal government rules out lockdown on account of COVID-19, just as almost 180,000 doses of Johnson & Johnson vaccines arrive the country. Attention turns to the youth, their role in nation building and innovation at events to mark International Youth Day. Free at last, 11 kidnapped victims escaped from bandits' camp in Kaduna State. And in Afghanistan, Taliban overrun 11th provincial capital in less than a week. Plus, business, sports, news from Abuja, and international news from our studio in London.
On business news tonight, Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries expects global economy to sustain dynamic growth in the second half of 2021.
The sports news tonight, Romelu Lukaku returns to European champions Chelsea for a club record fee of £97 million from Inter 7 years after his first spell at the Stamford Bridge club.
And from Abuja, Governor Otom blames the rise in cases of regional and sectional agitations on the seeming inability of the federal government to handle the nation's diversity.
We begin tonight with a status report as delivered by the Minister of Health on the sector. There were some grim statistics, such as those reflecting a spike in the number of cholera cases across the country. There was what some would describe as cheery news on the possibility of lockdown measures relating to COVID-19. The federal government, as represented by the Health Minister, Dr. Osagie Hanire, is insisting on the application of the no work, no pay policy as the resident doctors' strike enters day 11. All these came to the fore at the ministerial briefing organized by the presidential media team. Our State House correspondent, Gloria Muzuke, reports.
Amidst the myriad of challenges within the health sector and the preparation for the second phase of the vaccination exercise, the Minister of Health becomes guest at the 18th ministerial briefing in the State House. The minister first establishes the point that in spite of 76 recorded cases of the Delta variant in the country, there is no threat yet to warrant another lockdown.
The lockdown is a very, very last measure that countries have taken, because that lockdown stifles economic activity, it restricts your own freedom and your business. We are not at a level yet where we are feeling that threat to do any lockdown.
The ongoing strike by resident doctors since August 2 drew an appeal by the minister to the striking workers and an insistence to apply the no work, no pay policy.
We're having a strike for the third time this year, and that is not good. We have appealed to them. We have been having long meetings with the young doctors. There has been no threat. Nobody threatened anything. It's just an appeal. All of us are doctors. All of us went through the same residency. We're saying this is not the time. Let's go on talking about it. Do not put people's lives at risk. So if it didn't work, why should you go and be saying you should be paid? Because if that is so, you can be encouraged to stay home for 6 months, and your salary is running from public funds, from taxpayers' money, and you have not given the community any service. It's not just a government regulation. It's recommended, it's specifically stated in ILO regulations.
Other health concerns, like the cholera outbreak, which has ravaged 22 states, is brought to the fore.
As much as we focus on COVID, cholera is a disaster in Nigeria right now. We've lost more people from cholera this year than from COVID. We need to encourage our state governments to invest in water distribution and really raise this with your support.
Again, the federal government assures that for those Nigerians who have received the first jab of the AstraZeneca, a second dose would be administered by month end when a fresh consignment is delivered. From the presidential villa, Gloria Umezuke, Channels Television News.
Well, staying in the health sector, but this time with the COVID-19 response strategy, the federal government has received a first tranche of the Johnson & Johnson COVID-19 vaccine, totaling 177,600 doses. The government says hard-to-reach populations and security-compromised communities will be targeted with these vaccines. The Executive Director of the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency, Dr. Faisal Shraib, says the shipment is part of a 29.8 million dose of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine procured by the government through the African Vaccine Acquisition Trust, AVAT. According to him, Nigeria hopes to get up to 50 million doses of the J&J vaccines by the end of this year.
Officials of the African Center for Disease Control and Afreximbank hand over 177,600 doses of Johnson & Johnson COVID-19 vaccine to the federal government in Abuja. This shipment is the first tranche of the 29.8 million doses of Johnson & Johnson vaccine procured by the federal government through the African Vaccine Acquisition Trust. A WHO country representative describes the vaccine as a game changer for Nigeria as the country battles a third wave of the virus.
This pandemic still has a long way to run. Nigeria is already experiencing a third wave. The Johnson & Johnson Janssen vaccine we have today was listed for emergency use by WHO on the 12th of March. These vaccines are safe and effective and will be the game changer.
Officials of UNICEF and the African Center for Disease Control explained the rationale for choosing the Johnson & Johnson vaccine and encouraging citizens to get vaccinated.
The vaccine has a long shelf life and favorable storage condition. Last but not least, the vaccine is partly manufactured on the African continent, with finished activity taking place in South Africa. Our target is to deliver almost 50 million vaccines before the end of December.
This is the time to step up and get vaccinated, to take your responsibility. The vaccines are coming in, and we must do our part.
Unlike the AstraZeneca vaccine, the Johnson & Johnson will only be deployed to hard-to-reach populations.
Because it is a one-dose effective vaccine, these doses will be focused on those who are in the hard-to-reach areas. That is to say, the riverine areas, desert communities, security-compromised areas, and also the elderly.
Nigeria's COVID-19 infection rate has continued to spike in the last 3 weeks, averaging 500 new cases per day. But the government says the situation is not so bad as to warrant another lockdown yet.
Back in Lagos, the state government has fully activated 10 COVID oxygen treatment centres as well as 20 local government areas where COVID-19 sample collection will take place in the state. In a statement made available to Channels Television, the State Commissioner for Health, Professor Akin Bayomi, says the centres, which were established at the height of the first and second wave of the pandemic, have been reinvigorated to provide swift oxygen therapy and easy access to COVID testing for citizens who care to test for the virus infection. The 10 COVID oxygen treatment and sample collection centres are community-based and are established as dual-purpose facilities in 10 local government areas with a high burden of COVID infection cases. According to the Health Commissioner, the COVID-19 sample collection sites are operated by medical officers of health in each of the 20 local government areas and supervised by the Lagos State Primary Healthcare Board in collaboration with the Lagos State Biobank to increase the ease of access of residents to testing. And with the continuous strike of Nigeria Association of Resident Doctors, patients in hospitals appear to be gradually leaving government-owned hospitals to seek medical care in private clinics in Lagos State. According to the management of some public hospitals in the state who refuse entry to our cameras, they say that health services like emergencies and surgeries are being carried out as scheduled, and other health workers like nurses and consultants carry on with medical services to very few patients in the hospitals. And away from health, the People's Democratic Party has approached the Federal High Court in Abuja asking it to effect the removal of Governor Mai Mala Buni as governor of Yobe State. In an originating summons filed by Mr. Emeka Etiaba, the lawyer to the PDP, the party is praying the court to make the governor appear before it and defend whether or not he ceases to be governor by accepting to be the APC Caretaker Committee chairman. The PDP, through its lawyer, believes the governor has breached the provision of Section 183 of the Constitution when, as a governor, he also serves as the party's caretaker chairman. In the suit number FHC Abuja CS 885-2021, the governorship candidate of the PDP in 2019 in Yobe State is also a plaintiff in the matter, where INEC, the APC, and Governor Buni has joined as defendant. The court order is coming on the heels of the Supreme Court judgment in the case between Ondo State Governor Rotimi Akeredolu and Mr. Itayo Jegede, the PDP candidate in the Ondo governorship election of 2020, a judgment that has been subject of debate on whether a sitting governor can take up a role such as caretaker committee chairman of a party. And to security, at least 11 kidnapped victims have escaped from the camp of the bandits on the outskirts of Sabon Beni town, Igabi local government area of Kaduna State. Security agencies reveal that the 11 hostages are a mix of those kidnapped from Dambin Rauga in Zaria local government area, others along the Kaduna-Zaria highway. Among them are 5 children who are between the ages of 7 and 10, all residents of Dambin Rauga village in Zaria. The 6 others are passengers that were traveling from Maiduguri in Borno State to Ilorin in Kwara before they were abducted along the Kaduna-Zaria road. They were found by troops operating in the area and have been reunited with their families. Meanwhile, in another development, troops of Operation Safe Haven have rescued 3 kidnapped victims around Kirti village of Jamar local government and Goza village in Liri local government area. The victims were abducted but later on abandoned by the bandits after they cited troops of the Nigerian military were carrying out operations in the area. Meanwhile, the Defense Headquarters says the arrest of one Musa Adamu, a bomb expert who is also known as Mala Musa Abuja, 2 weeks ago, has helped the military deplete Boko Haram and ISWAP terrorists in the northeast. Acting Director, Defense Media Operations, Brigadier General Bernard Onyuko, stated this at the Defense Headquarters bi-weekly briefing in the nation's capital. According to him, no fewer than 1,000 terrorists and their families surrendered to the military at different locations. He also notes that a combination of air and ground troops at various theaters of operations helped to neutralize bandits and rescue several abductees who are now in their custody.
The headquarters of Operation Hadinkai has intensified its operation in the Northeast Theater. The intensity of these operations has yielded tremendous results, as evidenced in the number of casualties and massive surrender of terrorists. Cumulatively, the operations led to the neutralization of 27 Boko Haram and ISWAP fighters, arrest of 51 Boko Haram and Islamic State of West African Province terrorists, no fewer than 1,000 terrorists and their families, comprising adult females, children, surrendered to own troops at different locations in the Northeast. Notable among them are the notorious Boko Haram terrorist bomb expert named Musa Adamu, aka Mala Musa Abuja, and his deputy, Usman Adamu, aka Abu Dauda. This has in no small measure depleted the Boko Haram terrorist fighting capabilities. The air component of Operation Hadarin Daji carried out intensive airstrikes also on bandits' hideouts. The airstrikes, in conjunction with ground troops, dealt serious assault on them and neutralized no fewer than 123 bandits, and also the destruction of their logistic facilities.
In part 2, after the break, youth take center stage as the world marks International Youth Day. Please join us again. Welcome back. If you just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 live on Channels Television Lagos. A reminder about top stories. Federal government rules out lockdown on account of COVID-19, just as almost 180,000 doses of Johnson & Johnson vaccines arrive the country. Attention turns to the youth, their role in nation building and innovation at events to mark International Youth Day. Free at last, 11 kidnapped victims escaped from bandits' camp in Kaduna State. And in Afghanistan, Taliban overrun 11th provincial capital in less than a week. And as the world marks the International Day for the Youth, the Nigerian government says it is working hard to ensure that it provides a conducive environment for the youth population to thrive. The Minister of Youth and Sports, Mr. Sunday Dare, told Channels Television that there is a temporary hitch with the 75 billion Youth Investment Fund launched by President Muhammadu Buhari last year, where 25 billion naira is expected to be disbursed every year for 3 years. The minister says the 3-year soft loan initiative targeted towards 7,000 youths is part of the efforts of the Buhari administration to empower Nigerian youths. He was a guest on our Politics Today program.
We've had just about 5,225 approved for the loan. And that's because we've also had a bit of technical issues with the processes of application, which we have already fine-tuned. And I assure you that when we open up that site again, we're going to be able to ratchet up the number of Nigerian youth that will benefit from the NYIF. I think it's important to note that this is the first time a government is giving our youth single-digit loan, investing directly in their innovative skills, their enterprise, and the ideas they have for businesses. The government of President Muhammadu Buhari has tried to change the fundamentals of youth development in our country. I speak to a new orientation that emphasizes not just certificates, but also the need to upskill our youths. In a digital world where it's very clear that there's a digital skills gap, we have seen a government that has paid attention to a concept of training into enterprise, that we need to upskill our youths, provide them training, but also training that leads into entrepreneurship or some kind of process that makes them self-starters. Now, Sheon, I can speak to almost 30 to 35 different youth-focused programs in the last 6 years under this president. They are domiciled in about 8 to 9 different ministries. And then you find them in departments and agencies of government. I can also speak to the fact that under the Ministry of Youth and Sports Development, we have seen an attempt to start to invest in the skills, innovative ideas, enterprise of our youth, which is critical for development.
Meanwhile, the International Monetary Fund has held a panel discussion with 3 young innovators to mark this year's International Youth Day. The discussion, led by the IMF's first Managing Director, Jeffrey Okamoto, looks at how young leaders can enact positive change in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic.
First, I'd like to introduce Kelly Lavelle.
This International Youth Day panel discussion, organized by the International Monetary Fund, co-hosted by the fund's Young Professionals Group and the World Bank Youth Community, centers on new perspectives on innovation. The COVID pandemic had ripple effects on individuals, organizations, and economies. But this session, led by the first Deputy Managing Director of the IMF, provides an opportunity to draw on the ideas of young people on how to embrace the new normal.
It's impossible to have lived through the past 18 months and not have been changed by the pandemic, including its health, economic, and social effects. In the quiet of the lockdowns that many of us experienced, we've reflected on how to make the new normal even better. We have an opportunity to use this moment as a catalyst to envision and work towards a more sustainable world with greater opportunities for all.
The role of digital advances and data innovation is key in this conversation, and these 3 young leaders share how organizations can foster positive change and promote innovative practices.
I'm a big believer that it's not tomorrow versus today's leaders. It's really around intergenerational conversations and collaboration. And there's a unique dynamic of relationship that both parties can benefit from that relationship.
It's important to make sure we're asking staff in new areas that they have everything they need to perform to the best of their abilities. As if you take a high-performing individual, and then we put them in a new environment where they don't have all the tools they need, as maybe current staff work on different areas, and so they don't need those tools. It's kind of setting them up for failure.
My biggest thing would be to not let youth and innovation become just trendy words. Because if you think about it, that is what created the world today. So I think it's so important that we really build from the ground out in the way that we are reimagining the system and starting to think like, now there's these new technologies out there. How can we redesign the system and really listen and put the user at the center of what we are designing?
The International Youth Day, celebrated annually on August 12th, is an opportunity to celebrate the potential of youth as partners in the society, as well as recognizing their impact.
Well, staying with the Youth Day celebrations, at the Nigerian Institute of International Affairs in Lagos, government representatives, dignitaries, resource persons and tertiary students gathered to mark the day with the theme Transforming Food Systems, Youth Innovation for Health and Planetary Health. Our Foreign Affairs correspondent, Laya Degoke, reports.
It is said that for a country to grow in leaps and bounds, she must prioritize the role of its youths. In Lagos, the Nigerian Institute of International Affairs, NIIA, gathered eggheads, government representatives, traditional rulers and concerned groups to highlight the importance of young ones in transforming the nation.
As it happens, the theme of this year's International Youth Day is Transforming Food System, Youth Innovation for Human and Planetary Health. It is not just our energy system that needs to be transformed, but our food systems too. Young people in Nigeria can help revolutionize one of the nation's largest employment sectors by bringing their innovation and creativity to bear on a system that needs to become sustainable and climate friendly.
The Minister for Youth and Sports Development, represented by Ms. Oluwakemi Areola, challenged young Nigerians to be more patriotic.
We need to look inside ourselves. We have the solutions within us. But first and foremost, we need to believe in us and believe in our country and believe that our country can deliver it to us.
NIIA Director General, Professor Ehosa Osagaye, says despite the challenges faced by youths, there are numerous opportunities.
At the present time, the youths are going through a world that is challenged on all fronts. And this is a point that, a day like this would actually signify. That in all of these challenges and problems lie opportunities.
For this young Nigerian, a lot of basic human problems can be solved by transforming food systems.
We can solve a whole lot of basic human problems. The problems in the UN SDGs can be greatly solved, by starting with the food system, tackling violence, climate change, zero hunger.
Young people are said to be key drivers of change in their society, and on this International Youth Day, the call is for millions of them across the country to be innovative for human and planetary health that will in turn transform food systems in Nigeria. Layo Adegoke, Channels Television News.
And Nestle Nigeria PLC is partnering with 4 organizations to address the challenge of unemployment in Nigeria. Nestle Nigeria PLC, one of the largest food and beverage company in the country, plans to engage 250,000 young unemployed Nigerians in 3 years across the federation. And this will take off in the 4th quarter of the year 2021. This is also coming as the world marks the 2021 International Youth Day in line with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals.
With a population of over 200 million people, Nigeria's youth population takes 62% of that figure, and most of them remain unemployed. To help reduce the unemployment rate in the country, Nestle Nigeria PLC is forming an alliance with 4 other companies: Jobberman, Sterling One Foundation, Big Bottling Company, and United Nations Global Compact Network Nigeria to make them independent and reduce poverty.
This member of Global Alliance for Youth in Nigeria have positioned themselves to invest in various joint and individual initiatives to give young Nigerians meaningful work experience, internship, readiness for work, mentoring opportunity in line with United Nations Sustainable Development Goal.
Through the Alliance and with access to high-quality trainings, young people will be able to gain the critical skills needed to swiftly enter the workforce, as well as grow in their respective fields.
Other partners on the team say the issue of unemployment is a global challenge that must be tackled by everyone, and they are ready to set the ball rolling.
We have various programs to address various needs for our audience, so the modalities will differ. So we will have offline engagement, we will have online engagement to meet the needs of these 250,000 youth we're targeting across the country.
We are happy at the Biko Cola brand to partner with like-minded colleagues like this today to ensure that these SDG goals, we drive it and entrench it into the core values of our society and develop youths that are employable and that can fit for the future of tomorrow.
For the sustainable one, knowing that the youth at the end of the program can even have internships with the member organizations of the United Nations Global Compact. We have over 146 member organizations in Nigeria, and there are also internship opportunities for these participants of the program.
This alliance is one that hopes to change the narrative of youths, empower them with different skills, and make them self-reliant.
When the news at 10 returns, we have more on the Youth Day celebrations. Plus, OPEC gives optimistic outlook for the global economy in the second half of 2021. That's on Business News. Please join us again. Welcome back. With the world's population expected to increase by 2 billion people in the next 30 years, it has become recognized by numerous stakeholders that producing a large volume of healthier food more sustainably will ensure human well-being. This was echoed at this year's Youth Day celebrations in Lagos, and the Commissioner for Youth and Social Development says there is a need for inclusive support mechanisms that ensure the youth continue to amplify efforts collectively and individually to restore the planet, protect life, while integrating biodiversity in the transformation of food systems. He says that is the only way to reduce poverty and achieve the Sustainable Development Goal.
The issue of food security takes center stage at the 2021 International Youth Day, a day that highlights the need for support mechanisms by youths to restore the planet and protect life. In achieving this goal, the Lagos State government has gathered youths from across the state, asking them to join hands with the authorities to help transform the food sector in the state.
As we celebrate this year's International Youth Day, the theme we're considering is transforming youth system, food system, I beg your pardon. Youth innovation for human and planetary health.
The Commissioner for Agriculture, who is driving the 5-year roadmap, lectures the youth on how to take charge of the sector.
It could be someone who actually produces seedlings for the farmer to make use of. You could actually form a research and development company, a consulting company, that can go into seeing how yields can be increased just by probably doing some technological DNA simulations.
And the Food Hygiene Initiative of Nigeria is ready to partner with Lagos and transform the food system.
Transforming food system by youth innovation for our good health is an urgent need to strengthen the food system in Lagos State. This could be mitigated by sensitization and awareness on key challenges facing food safety in Lagos State.
Agriculture is a critical sector that every government is taking seriously to grow the economy. And the Lagos State government says it's not only joining hands with youths to redefine the sector, but also to achieve food security.
And News Just In has it. The Commissioner for Information, Niger State, Honorable Mohammed Idris, has regained his freedom. According to the Niger State government, Mr. Idris was released around 9:30 p.m. today at a location in Suleja town and has been taken to hospital for medical checkup. The state government also says no ransom was paid for his release. The commissioner was kidnapped last week in Babantunga, Tafa local government area of Niger State. Off to the nation's capital we go as Gloria Mezoke has some more stories. Hello, Gloria.
Hello, Millicent. Good to see you. We begin in Benue State, where Governor Samuel Ortom has blamed the rising cases of regional and sectional agitations on the seeming inability of the APC-led federal government. He believes that the ruling party is not doing enough to manage the diversity of the nation, as was the case when the People's Democratic Party was in power. Mr. Ortom stated this upon his return from the PDP meetings, which was convened to deal with the leadership crisis rocking the party. Governor Ortom insists that the PDP has resolved its crisis with the planned October 2021 National Convention by the present National Working Committee of the party.
With this APC government sectionalism, Nigeria have never been divided in this manner. Since independence, we know that we have over 250 ethnic groups, but today it is like everybody is just struggling for himself or his ethnic group. Nobody is concerned about the country, Nigeria. And this is led by the APC government. And so we cannot afford to fail Nigerians by not providing an alternative platform as we march towards 2023. So this is what we did with the PDP Governors Forum. We decided that we'll be unanimous in ensuring that we work together to ensure victory for our party in 2023. We resolved that the party must remain united. So whatever were issues between other people and the National Working Committee, we should put them at a stop. And that was what we did exactly yesterday, and decided that, well, the National Executive Committee of the party should call for an early convention, which will take place in October.
The Tertiary Education Trust Fund, TED Fund, is looking to ensure that intervention to the beneficiary institutions be increased by 50% next year and 100% in 2 years. Making this declaration at a forum in Lagos today, the TED Fund's Board of Trustees Chairman, Mr. Kashim Ibrahim Imam, also says it has spent more than 2.5 trillion naira in infrastructure and staff development in public tertiary institutions in Nigeria. The hope is that the Federal Inland Revenue Service will help increase the education tax collection to 500 billion naira in the next 2 years.
I would like to give each and every one of us a big welcome.
When you hold funds in trust and in the saddle to disburse same to tertiary institutions across the length and breadth of the country, there comes a time when you just have to give account of your stewardship. It's the third Taxpayers Forum at the instance of the Tertiary Education Trust Fund, TED Fund, for which the agency will be opening their workbook on what they've done with the 2% tax of assessable profit of companies registered in Nigeria in the last 10 years.
We sponsored over 10,000 lecturers in the local PhD program, over 9,000 lecturers in the local master's degree program across the country between 2011 and 2020. The fund has also sponsored well over 4,485 lecturers to overseas institutions for PhD programs and over 3,192 master's degree candidates also overseas across tertiary institutions within the same period.
New areas are being considered.
We have a very ambitious program, i.e. to do 160,000 bed spaces across 100 university campuses, totaling 160,000 additional bed spaces.
Professor Gundikpe, Vice Chancellor of the University of First Choice, as they choose to call themselves, have benefited immensely from the interventions, but wants the board to look at a few more areas.
There's need for the companies to pay tax. Is very important because available data in 2008 confirms that about 2.2 million companies are registered in Nigeria, but only 104 companies always pay.
Knowledge-based economy is at the fulcrum of established claims. Here is what we must do to catch up if we want to.
Brick and mortar does not do research. It is human beings that do researches. Columbia University, New York, has assets in pharmaceutical alone last year was $1.9 billion. I think that is what TED Fund must focus on.
The taxman, that's the FIRS, says it will bring in more corporates into the net through technology. The circle is complete when the funds, the tailor-made interventions, and the human capacity meet. That's the nexus for knowledge-based economic growth. Olu Phillips, Channels Television News.
Samsung Nigeria has launched 2 new high-end phones with folding screens into the Nigerian market, and they are the Galaxy Z Flip 3 and the Galaxy Z Fold 3. The Galaxy Z Flip 3 is a small pocketable square that opens up to reveal a 6.7-inch screen, while the Galaxy Z Fold 3 is a skinny phone that opens like a book to reveal a tablet-sized 7.6-inch screen. Samsung says it is continuing to refine its screen folding technology while offering water-resistant models for the first time.
And wristbands. We even tried to incorporate the technology.
Breakthrough technology, backed by hours of research and development, is what Samsung, the global phone maker, says it's bringing to the table. Here in this cinema hall in Lagos, it's time to witness the Samsung Unpacked launch. 2 new phones are in. The Galaxy Z Fold 3 is a skinny phone that opens like a book to reveal a tablet-sized 7.6-inch screen offering multitasking functions. Then the Galaxy Z Flip 3 is a small pocketable square that opens up to reveal a 6.7-inch screen inside.
Samsung Nigeria is announcing our foldable phones is a mainstream in the market. We have 2 foldable phones having completion of functionality and beauty as well.
Samsung, we wow people. Our devices are top quality and premium. Looking at the device, I would say that it has a lot of amazing features. Firstly, we introduced the use of the S Pen, so people like the Note users can also get to use the Fold. It also has the screen is easy to use.
5 different cameras in 3 spots, plus a new layer on the foldable screen that's 80% more durable than earlier screens. And Corning glass on the outside, offering water resistance, brings added value to the phones.
The foldable era is actually here to stay. That's why we're talking about unfolding your world. So we're moving away from what people actually see as conventional smartphone experience and now giving you experiences that actually ties to the user's lifestyle. So the Z Fold 3 and the Z Flip 3 are 2 devices being announced today that very, very much complement the lifestyle of the users in every possible way.
Now they're taking it up a notch higher. It's now water resistant. You can use an S Pen on it. These are things that no other phone is able to still do today. And I think it's just pretty amazing. And it's just congratulations to everybody who's been a part of this.
Besides the phones, the Samsung Galaxy Watch 4 and Galaxy Pods 2 were also introduced into the market.
But that's it from the nation's capital. It's over now to Teniola Shobowale, who's standing by in Lagos for business news.
Banking so easy, so simple. Dial *894# now to experience it. You first, First Bank.
Thanks a lot, Gloria. Welcome to Business News. The global economy is expected to further extend its dynamic growth within the second half of this year into 2022. And that's according to the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries. In its monthly oil market report for this August, which was released today, OPEC projects that the recovery remains well supported by the ongoing accommodative monetary policies of the G4 central banks, fiscal stimulus measures from key OECD economies, as well as ongoing pent-up demand for crude oil. OPEC also forecasts that the OECD economies and China will provide the strongest support to global growth momentum in the second half of the year, as well as the ongoing recovery in the services sector. Meanwhile, OPEC has kept its global oil demand growth projections for 2021 and 2022 unchanged at 96.6 million barrels per day. According to its latest monthly report, oil demand is expected to rise by around 6 million barrels a day this year, followed by growth of 3.3 million barrels a day in 2022. However, the oil producer group lifted its forecast for supply growth outside the organization, with non-OPEC supply now expected to grow by 1.1 million barrels a day in 2021, driven by Canada, Russia, China, the US, Norway, and Brazil. Meanwhile, oil futures were lower today, with the Brent down by 0.38% at $71.17 per barrel, and US crude for September delivery down 0.46% at $69.93 a barrel, as at 10:14 p.m. local time. The Lagos House of Assembly has reacted to recent report over the purported takeover of the Lagos Concession Company. While briefing journalists today on the matter, the Chairman House Committee on Finance, Mr. Rotimi Olowo, says the House only approved Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu's request to convert the LCC's $53.9 million private loan to a public sector loan. He clarified that the loan conversion was made to attract lower interest rates from 4.2 to 1.2% from the African Development Bank. He also mentioned that the terms of the loan agreement was on 75% shareholding by the Lagos State government and 25% by public-private partnership. Investors' sentiment at the Nigerian exchange ends positive for a third consecutive day this week, with more than 200% increase recorded in the total volume of shares traded today. John Mekwa has the details.
Hello and welcome to the Stock Market Report. Well, it's the third consecutive bullish trading session on the floor of the Nigerian Exchange Group. 21 billion naira again. The bull bellows yet again as the all-share index expanded by 0.11%. And investors are happy once again. Honeywell Flour contributed over 654 million naira to make it to the top gainers list. It added 17 kobo to close at 1 naira 87 kobo. 19 other stocks also gained today, while Sky Shelter Fund led 14 other decliners. Its share price lost almost 10% to close at 61 naira 75 kobo. For the counters, banking was down 0.24%. Consumer goods dropped with the same rate it added yesterday, which is 0.02%. However, industrial went from being flat yesterday to increasing by 0.35%. On the activity chart, it ended green. Volume went up by over 200% to over 570 million, and value also went up by 20 million naira to close at 2.28 billion naira, while deal was at 3,764. And this left a positive market breadth in the market again today. Good news for the investors. That's the Stock Market Report. I'm John Mekwa.
Thanks a lot, Ini. U.S. markets also ended Thursday's trading session in the green, with the Dow and S&P 500 at new record high on gains from the health and technology stocks. Well, here are some global market closing figures for the day.
And that's business news tonight. It's back to Millicent for the rest of the news at 10.
Banking, so easy, so simple. Dial star 894 hash now to experience it. You first, First Bank.
Thank you, Teniola. And this afternoon, the head of immigration section and 2 other officials went for a meeting at the Home Office. At the entrance, COVID test was administered on them, and one of them tested positive to COVID-19. The affected officer immediately isolated, while the other officials who tested negative were also isolated for the next 10 days. In response to this challenge, the Commission, the Nigeria High Commission London, embarked on testing all officials of the mission, after which another official of the mission tested positive. Hence, in line with the COVID-19 regulation and the need to adhere to the rules and regulation of the host country, the mission will close down for the next 10 days in order to observe the mandatory isolation of those who are in contact with the affected officials. The High Commission regrets any inconvenience that this may have caused and is soliciting the cooperation of the general public. And the Taliban today took control of the 11th provincial capital in Afghanistan today, seizing the cities Ghazni and Herat. The militants are said to now control a third of Afghanistan's regional cities. Simon Pusey has more in Around the World in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the Channel Studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. The Taliban have taken the strategically important city of Ghazni, the 10th provincial capital to fall to the militants in less than a week. Ghazni is on the major Kabul-Kandahar motorway linking militant strongholds in the south to the capital. Almost a third of the country's 34 provincial capitals are now under Taliban control. The United Nations estimates that over 400,000 people have been internally displaced, leaving 18 million in need of humanitarian assistance. The Australian capital, Canberra, is going into a snap one-week lockdown after recording its first coronavirus case in more than a year.
This is the most serious public health risk that we have faced in the Territory this year. And really since the beginning of the pandemic.
The lockdown was called for the whole Australian Capital Territory, home to around 400,000 people, because authorities do not know how the infected person caught the virus. Panic buying and long queues were reported at supermarkets across the state as the lockdown approached. Meanwhile, Sydney's lockdown has been extended to at least August the 28th, with a raft of changes to restrictions announced, including an outdoor mask mandate and a 5-kilometre radius travel limit. Heavy rains have triggered severe floods and mudslides in northern Turkey, killing at least 6 people and leaving others missing or injured. Helicopters scrambled to rescue people stranded on rooftops, while cars were swept away in raging torrents. Turkey's north is prone to flash floods in the summer when rains are particularly strong. Last year, at least 5 people were killed in the floods in the region. Indian rescuers have found the wreckage of a bus that was trapped under mud and boulders a day after a landslide in northern Kinnaur district killed at least 13. Falling boulders swept a truck, a bus and other vehicles from a stretch of the national highway. Officials say that rescue operations are being hampered by rocks that are continuing to fall and that about 60 people are feared to be buried under the debris. More than 200 personnel, including from the army, paramilitary forces and local police, are currently taking part in the rescue mission. Meanwhile, an Indian rocket carrying a powerful Earth observation satellite has failed to fire fully in a major setback for the country's space program.
4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
The satellite was meant to provide real-time images used to monitor natural disasters such as cyclones, cloudbursts and thunderstorms. A technical fault occurred in the third and final ignition stage shortly after the rocket was launched from the Space Center in southern India. The space agency did not disclose what would happen to the rocket and satellite after the ignition failure. Zambians are voting in nationwide elections after a tense campaign dominated by economic woes and the impact of the coronavirus. President Edgar Lunga, who faces a stiff challenge from opposition leader Hakainde Hichilema, was among the first people to vote as polls opened in the capital, Lusaka. Polling opened at 6 a.m. with long queues seen at voting booths in the capital, which could point to a big turnout. A ship sailing under a Panama flag has run aground near a harbour in northern Japan and is leaking oil. The 21-member crew of the ship has been rescued with no injuries reported, but images from the scene show the ship has split in two. The vessel's two parts have not moved and are being closely monitored by patrol boats. The vessel, which was at the end of a voyage from Thailand, was carrying wood chips. And finally, a German animal shelter is trying a new approach to find homes for abandoned pets by posting their profiles on a dating app. The hope is that lonely humans looking for love might also settle for the company of a cat or dog. The shelter in Munich got an advertising agency to shoot professional pictures of 15 animals, including a black and white cat called Captain Kirk that it put on Tinder. The shelter said that several people have already swiped right to set up their first date. And that's your international news around the world in 5. And now back to the channel's studios in Lagos.
Thanks, Simon. Time enough for sports news. Chelsea FC have re-signed striker Romelu Lukaku for a club record fee of £97.5 million from Inter Milan. Lukaku, who initially moved to Stamford Bridge as a 17-year-old from Belgian side Anderlecht in 2011, returns to the Blues on a 5-year deal. The fee for Belgium's record goal scorer surpasses the £75.8 million paid for Kai Havertz last summer. The Super Eagles of Nigeria have dropped 7 places to 34th position in the latest FIFA World Ranking, released earlier today by the World Football Governing Body, FIFA. Now, following the drop, the 3-time African champions are now in 5th place in Africa. The Teranga Lions of Senegal remain Africa's #1 team and 21st in the world, and Tunisia are 2nd on the continent, and they occupy 28th on the global ranking. Meanwhile, Belgium remain at #1 with no fewer than 348 international matches taken into consideration at this time in the world ranking, of course. Well, Brazil moved up to 2nd spot. France dropped 5 places to the 3rd position. England, the Euro 2021 finalists, are in the 4th, and Euro 2020 winners Italy are in 5th. In 6th place is Argentina, 7th spot has Spain, while Portugal, Mexico, and USA make up the top 10. And British sprinter CJ Ujja has been suspended from the competition after testing positive for a banned substance. The 27-year-old, who was part of Team GB men's 4x100 meters relay team, which won silver at the Tokyo 2020 Olympics this month. The Athletics Integrity Unit, that's the ARU, says he has been provisionally suspended. And that's a wrap on sports news.
And the main news again, the federal government today ruled out another lockdown on account of COVID-19 as almost 180,000 doses of Johnson & Johnson vaccines arrived the country. That's the news at 10 tonight. Thank you for watching. I'm Millicent Walker. Have a good night and stay safe.